As we wait in anticipation for that gift we've always wanted, let us fan into flame the realization that a gift you may have overlooked is waiting for you to appreciate. This could be a friend who is always present, a family member who always seems to send you a word of encouragement just when you need it, or your own life, which has its own significance. So, as we enter the third week of Advent, let us consider the joy that comes with every gift that this and every season brings. Thank you and welcome to another joyous edition of Jamaica Magazine. I'm your host, Audrey Williams. We've put together an informative package just for you, so stay put. We'll be back after the news.
Good day, I'm Theodore Henry, and this is your JIS News for Friday, December 16, 2022. Jamaica has entered into 2 new agreements with the International Monetary Fund, IMF, to reduce vulnerability to external shocks while pursuing greater investment in renewable energy and other development areas. Minister of Finance and the Public Service, Dr. Nigel Clark, announced yesterday that government had reached a staff-level agreement with the IMF for its Resilience and Sustainability Facility, RSF, and a Precautionary Liquidity Line, PLL. Through the PLL, Jamaica gets access to approximately $1 billion should it become needed. The country will access up to another $763 million through the Resilience and Sustainability Facility. This is at an interest rate of 3.8% with 20 years to repay and no principal repayment for the first 10 years.
This is a compelling instrument that, if we access, would not only support our climate resilience building strategy, but also potentially save Jamaica approximately $35 million per year over 20 years in interest costs. As against accessing financing in capital markets, it would allow us to invest in job-creating and resilient infrastructure, enhance our transition to renewable energy, thereby reducing our energy vulnerability, even as we continue to prioritize human capital development.
Minister Clark says entering both arrangements at this time is a forward-thinking move that seeks to maintain and expand on the robust economic recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic that Jamaica is experiencing.
This is an engagement of choice. These are not arrangements that we have to make, but rather financings that we choose to take advantage of to keep us strong, to build our economic and climate resilience, to create buffers, to expand our fiscal space, to broaden our options, and to help us prepare in advance for any adverse external developments that may arise.
The finance minister made the announcement in an address to the nation yesterday. In other finance news, Jamaica's new banknotes have arrived and are slated for phased release into circulation in 2023. The overall process could take up to 6 months, with an estimated timeline for completion in June. The new series includes the introduction of a $2,000 bill and a redesign of the entire suite of notes. The unveiling of the printed polymer notes took place on Thursday at the Bank of Jamaica, BOJ, by Finance Minister Dr. Nigel Clark.
Now, these notes are quite different from the notes that exist today, as we have mentioned. They feel different, they have different features, and in order for them to be in circulation, the Bank of Jamaica has to work with the existing commercial banks to ensure that the ATMs can be reprogrammed to efficiently handle these notes.
In addition to the durability, security features, and being more user-friendly for the visually impaired, Dr. Clark says a key advantage of using polymer substrate material is that the new notes can be printed by multiple banknote producers.
Some of the notes that we have introduced over the past 2 decades are notes that only one specific supplier can produce. And that might have been necessary at the time, but going forward, this is certainly an improvement and one that I think you would all welcome.
Meanwhile, the Bank of Jamaica BOJ says it has put more state-of-the-art security features in place to protect the new series of banknotes from counterfeit. Governor Richard Biles says this is necessary to remain ahead of counterfeiters who are using more sophisticated technology to threaten banknote security worldwide. The banknotes were printed by British firm De La Rue, the world's largest integrated commercial banknote printer. Country Director Gareth Evans says Jamaica moving away from cotton paper to polymer will significantly reduce counterfeit.
If you take the Bank of England, for example, as short ago as before their polymer journey, they were up around 100 counterfeits per million banknotes in circulation. Since the introduction of polymer, they've dropped down to 23 counterfeits per million. Bank of Canada has a similar story as well. And the security features that are used on the new Jamaica banknotes are cutting edge, very similar to the new features on Bank of England and Bank of Canada. So we would expect a similar level of counterfeit protection.
Governor Biles says other benefits of the new notes include durability and cost saving on reprinting.
This will result in at least a 50% longer average circulation lifespan of the new banknotes. Consequently, going forward, the banknote reorder quantities will be lower and reordering will be done less frequently.
The BOJ governor says arrangements are being made for the disposal of the polymer waste material without compromising the environment. In other news, Jamaica is expecting a strong winter tourist season with approximately 1.3 million airline seats secured and projected earnings of $1.4 billion. Portfolio Minister Edmund Bartlett says over 930,000 seats are from the United States market, with the Caribbean also increasing its contribution to airline seats.
Regional tourism is picking up back, and that's a good sign for us. So we have a 16% increase in the seats from the Caribbean.
In addition, he says Jamaica's average daily rate, ADR, which measures revenue earned from occupied rooms, has increased by 20%. Minister Bartlett says all this augurs well for the country's foreign exchange stability and growth, putting the net international reserves NIR in a healthy state.
We are going to see a winter that's going to have a very strong arrival, but even a stronger earning, and that's important. Now, what this does for Jamaica is to create demand, strong demand, for more goods and services to be provided by our Jamaican local stakeholders. And that's one of the things that we want to emphasize.
The winter tourist season officially started on Thursday, December 15. And finally, the Ministry of Health and Wellness is reporting that the prevalence of COVID-19 and monkeypox outbreaks, now known as Mpox, are at an all-time low. This was confirmed by the ministry's National Surveillance Unit, which has been tracking the figures. Portfolio Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton gave an update during his ministry's end-of-year press conference yesterday. While the numbers are encouraging, he is recommending that members of the public continue to use caution over the holiday season, pointing out that new COVID cases were confirmed in the previous week.
That's December 6th to 12th. We confirmed 42 new cases, bringing our total case count to 152,711. Regrettably, we also recorded 5 deaths that occurred between December 2020 and October 2021. The total deaths for COVID-19 now stands at 3,452. with 349 still under investigation and another 295 noted as coincidental COVID-19 deaths.
As for the Mpox numbers, it currently stands at 18 with 1 active case.
We note that 16 of those cases were transmitted locally and 2 were imported.
As of right now, Dr. Tufton says the numbers do not warrant placing restrictions on the public, but he says the ministry will continue to monitor, engage with partners, and make internal assessments moving forward. And that's it for JIS News Today. I'm Theodore Henry. Thanks for watching.
How many more must die because of reckless drivers? How fast is too fast? Make we take time, no man. Obey the rules of the road. Drive with care.
Jamaica is experiencing a robust economic recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic. After economic growth of 8.2% last fiscal year and a projection of 4.5% for this fiscal year, economic output is expected to attain pre-COVID levels by 2023. Unemployment is lower today than it was prior to the pandemic, and our debt to GDP ratio is also lower today than prior to the pandemic. With the possible exception of Guyana, no other country in this hemisphere can claim a similar experience. Despite this encouraging recovery, however, global uncertainties loom on multiple fronts. The war in Ukraine continues to have a global impact with no sign of ending. Europe is forecasted to experience an economic recession next year, and some analysts, not all, but some analysts say that there's an appreciable risk that the United States may also experience an economic recession as well. In addition, global inflationary pressures are likely to remain for some time. And furthermore, international financing conditions are tightening as central banks around the world raise interest rates to battle inflation. From our historical experience, we know that building resilience and creating policy buffers in advance are important strategies for successful navigation of and recovery from shocks should they materialize. Looking across the horizon, therefore, it is important that we act in advance and ahead of time in always seeking to increase fiscal space, broaden our options, and make Jamaica stronger. Over the next 2 fiscal years, in 2023-24 and 2024-25, Jamaica has over $1 billion of external debt maturing that needs to be refinanced at what could possibly be interest rates that are higher than today. Earlier this year, the International Monetary Fund launched a new product, the Resilience and Sustainability Facility, that would allow Jamaica to access up to $763 million at an interest rate of approximately 3.8% and a repayment period of 20 years, with no principal repayment for the first 10 years. This is a compelling instrument that, if we access, would not only support our climate resilience building strategy, but also potentially save Jamaica approximately $35 million per year over 20 years in interest costs, as against accessing financing in capital markets using our current average blended market borrowing costs as a comparison, even before we consider that market interest rates may rise further. This combination of building resilience while also achieving fiscal savings would come at a critical time. It would allow us to invest in job-creating and resilient infrastructure, enhance our transition to renewable energy, thereby reducing our energy vulnerability, even as we continue to prioritize human capital development. Jamaica must take advantage of this opportunity. At the same time, during this period of uncertainty, though we have over $4.3 billion in gross foreign exchange reserves, in order to ensure that we are not overly exposed to external developments that could derail foreign exchange inflows, we will also access the precautionary liquidity line, where approximately $1 billion would become available to us should we need it. The precautionary liquidity line is an instrument of the International Monetary Fund for countries with strong economic fundamentals, and Jamaica's qualification for this credit line is a signal of our economic strength and stability. These arrangements will not interfere with our already planned programs and activities. it is and will be business as usual, with the additional ability to access financing if the global outlook worsens. My fellow Jamaicans, we are at a different era of our economic development, one where we anticipate events in advance and provide for them. We have put in place a natural disaster strategy, capitalized a natural disaster fund, and launched the world's first catastrophe bond independently sponsored by a small country. These financing arrangements are designed to protect us from natural disaster shock. Similarly, today, thinking ahead, we reached a staff-level agreement with the International Monetary Fund for the Resilience and Sustainability Facility and a precautionary liquidity line to ensure that our development can proceed and continue even in the event of possible external shock. This is an engagement of choice. These are not arrangements that we have to make, but rather financings that we choose to take advantage of to keep us strong, to build our economic and climate resilience, to create buffers, to expand our fiscal space, to broaden our options, and to help us prepare in advance for any adverse external developments that may arise. My fellow Jamaicans, with God's continued guidance, we are taking charge of our economic future. And even in a time of great economic recovery and expansion and job creation, we are making preparations for possible shocks in the same way that strong and empowered countries do. Thank you.
Traffic signals are intended to maintain an orderly flow of traffic, allow pedestrians or vehicles to cross an intersection, and help reduce conflicts between vehicles entering the intersections from different directions. But how much do you know about the complexities behind the flow that governs our movement?
Traffic signal, as we refer to it as, it's a system of electronic controls that we use to assist in managing traffic at particular locations along our corridors. In managing the flow, there's a system. We have mast arms. We have the signal heads. Signal heads are what you'll see, the lights, whether green, amber, or red. We have wires that are connected to a control box. The control box has a number of components that assist us in managing the flows through the intersection or junction. Now, before we actually signalize an intersection or junction, we do traffic counts, so we know where it is the bulk of the vehicles are coming from or they're heading to. You want to have that information so that in setting the timings, in rehearsing the timings for persons to go through, you know what amount of green time you're going to be giving to a particular phase of the intersection as opposed to another. Our traffic signals, the systems are on a fiber optic network that is actually right across the country. So we have a combination of fiber and microwave links that we're using to roll out what we call a public safety network. And the systems that we have been incorporating our camera systems with these. And so we're able to monitor traffic through our traffic management center that we have at the corporate office 140 Maxfield Avenue. And it gives us the ability to change the timings that we have at these locations remotely. In other words, we don't have to have our officers physically go into the location, changing the timings.
In the Traffic Management Center, we have something called QuickNet. So in present day right now, this is what we use to remotely manage all traffic lights. What you're seeing on the screen now is a virtual display of what is in the cabinet at the intersection via our traffic camera. At the first display, you can see it. This is our Model 170 controller. This is what we use as a standard in Kingston. So right now you can see all the visual displays. This is what exactly you see in a traffic cabinet. Beside it, you see a graphical representation of what is happening at the stoplight. So at the cameras, you can see two true movements and a turning movement, moving from green to amber to red. And now you can see the two turning movements start. So you can see two turning movements and a left turning movement happening right now, as well as a forward turning movement at the next part of the intersection. So the graphic can show you the plan, the status, the cycle length, offset values, traffic statistics. So using this, you can see if the stoplight is working efficiently or not. So this will tell us if the stoplight is down, off, in any problem, whatever. So before people have to call and report a stoplight is down, with this system, when everything is integrated, you won't have to. You automatically know. What you're seeing now on the screen is a viewing of Halfway Tree area, the Kingston Metropolitan area, where we can now monitor traffic remotely. So before, to put up our traffic lights, somebody would have to go months prior and record the traffic data to put up a signal. Now we can have somebody here remotely counting traffic, as well as several different other specialized cameras to count the traffic for us. So specifically, we can look at specific intersections, say for this one example. If we see the traffic is building up, we can allot more time to a specific intersection to allow the through traffic to flow.
We have well over 100 locations across the country where we have signals, and the number continues to grow because every year we look at new locations to signalize. The demand is quite high, and the demand grows with the numbers of vehicles that we are seeing on our roads.
Many of us are looking forward to eating escovitched or fried fish this season, and our fish farmers are working tirelessly to bring in the catch. The next feature will provide some insight into how fisheries are regulated.
Fishing. The simple act of casting a line with a bait in the hopes of catching a nibble from a fish has been an essential aspect of human civilization since hunter-gatherer times, and is one of the few food production activities that have survived from prehistory to modern day. Today, it has evolved to become yet another source of income for many, including our own fisherfolk. But how is fisheries regulated? Enter Jamaica's National Fisheries Authority (NFA), an agency under the umbrella of the Ministry of Agriculture and Fisheries. The NFA is entrusted with overseeing, regulating, and preserving the fisheries industry while working to improve the fishermen's fishing experiences and incomes. A critical focus area of the NFA has been aquaculture. This is the breeding, growing, and harvesting of fish, shellfish, and aquatic plants, or the act of farming in water. This means our tilapia and oyster farmers are at the heart of Jamaica's aquaculture practice. In addition to regulating the sector and providing support, the NFA has also taken on the task of educating and encouraging Jamaicans about the benefits of tilapia farming as another approach to boosting local fish production and reducing stress on reef fish.
The reef fish, that is fish caught in the reefs in and around the Jamaica shoreline, that population is decreasing. And our fishermen will tell you that when they go out, they have to go further and further out to get a decent crop of fish to sustain themselves. Tilapia has been grown in Jamaica since the 1940s. Its fortunes have ebbed and waned with time. And so here we are now trying to promote it, to push it, to get people to not only eat it, but to get people to also produce it.
As a result, the National Fisheries Authority has begun to employ different creative approaches to increase tilapia production and consumption. The upcoming cooking competition is one of those approaches which aims to highlight the different ways tilapia can be enjoyed. While the NFA continues working to expand aquaculture, effort is also being made to revitalize reef fishing. An initiative to train fishermen for pelagic or deep-sea fishing is part of that drive. A technique in which a fish aggregation device, FAD, is strategically placed to attract pelagic fish, allowing fishermen to fish beyond reefs, is also being explored as a more cost-effective method. The creation of fish sanctuaries has also been essential to the sustainability of Ori fish. Fish sanctuaries are no-fishing zones developed to conserve the bay's breeding grounds and fish habitats while progressively increasing the fish population in the neighboring regions.
We are seeking to develop production of shrimp, production of oysters, production of sea moss, or Irish moss as we call it here in Jamaica. And so there is a huge development towards the aquaculture industry because, as I said, the sea product is declining. Aquaculture is the saving grace, if you will, of Jamaica's fisheries endeavors because it has so much potential for growth and development.
And not only will aquaculture contribute to the improvement of fish habitats and the rebuilding of stocks of threatened or endangered species, it will also assist to feed the nation today and for the foreseeable future.
The invitations have arrived and you're at a loss for what to wear to the holiday parties. You've now gone into overdrive trying to unearth a magical outfit to set you ablaze. Stop for a moment. You might be surprised to learn that you already have something you haven't tried on, or that you can find an easy fit at a local clothing store. When in doubt, simply add holiday hues. It's a simple way to feel festive. Sequins are always a go-to for the season. It's something super fun with embellishments that you wouldn't normally wear, and it can really elevate a simple outfit to a whole new level. Yes, velvet is the ideal fabric for holiday parties, for both males and females, because it feels luxurious and special. And with a velvet shirt or dress, you can completely transform your holiday look. Also, ladies, a little black dress in your own style can go a long way. Remember to accessorize, accessorize, accessorize. Finally, while hunting for the perfect look, if the event is a company party, always keep in mind the organization's dress code and vibe, as you still want to look polished and professional. We've come to the end of our program. Get a recap of all you saw here and more on our website at www.jis.gov.jm. From all of us here at the JIS, I'm Audrey Williams. Happy holidays.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.